All right, welcome back to another podcast. Today on the show we have Eileen Kopsaftis. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michael. I'm excited to be here and hoping we can share some good stuff.
Absolutely. I was very intrigued by the area and the realm that you exist in, which is primarily movement. Is that fair?
Yes, very fair.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And everyone that watches my content and the podcast knows that I'm 57, and as I get older, I'm concentrating more on longevity aspects rather than short-term wins. I want something that I can do that I can carry on well into my 80s and 90s. And I think you're a perfect candidate for this discussion today. So this is going to be great.
Yes. I've had people over 100 years old in the parallel bars doing squats. So
That's
yeah.
awesome. I love that. Well, first of all, just give us a quick idea of your background and where you came from and how you got here and what you're currently doing and what your practice is.
Okay. So quick, at my age, I'm 67, so that could take a while. But well, basically when I was really little, I wanted to be a doctor. And then when I got old enough to go to college, I realized I didn't really want to fall into the medical model because, I have nothing against doctors. They want to help people. It's great. But the medical model tends to fall short at getting people out of chronic pain, especially, and addressing whole body. It's more like you're a part. And so I didn't really agree with any of that. So I ended up looking at nutrition because food, we are what we eat. And then I realized, well, I disagreed with a lot of what they were teaching at the time because it was the 4 food groups. And I was, I'm a dinosaur here. And then I was always fascinated with the human body. So the PT program really caught my eye. And so I did it. But right out of the gate, I was exposed to people who practiced a little bit differently outside the conventional model of, oh, you're a knee, so you're going to do this, or, oh, you're a back, so you're going to do that. I had mentors that were just amazingly gifted who had 3-week waiting lists because doctors sent people to them specifically, and they aimed me at all the good stuff. And so for 15 years, I was really motivated to learn as many manual skills as I could. And then the last 15 years of my 30-year journey here, I came across what I call the holy grail of movement. Now, it's actually taught to healthcare professionals, licensed professionals. It's the Gray Institute. And Dr. Gary Gray is literally nicknamed the father of function. And he is beyond brilliant. I've learned so much from them, but they don't teach the general public. And so I started bringing this way of training the body that literally can reverse pain, can promote health in all the joints and movements of the body, and practically eliminate any risk of injury as long as the person is not doing something stupid like, oh, this hurts, so I'm going to keep doing it. But it's been phenomenal. And so now I'm very excited at teaching people how to move to get out of pain, how to age really well without decline. I plan to live to at least 112 and be really stinking happy about it. I always joke and say, no diapers and drooling for me. But I've got an online academy where most of the people are over 50. Some of them are in their 70s and 80s. And, they can do 80 squats with me in 7 minutes and not injure themselves. So there's a way to train the body that is extremely effective. And it's not mainstream knowledge, but it should be. So that's why I'm here. And I'm very excited to share this.
So when you talk about, people often think that pain, because I want to really dig into this, because I'm a firm believer that pain is warning.
Yes.
Is symptom.
Yes.
Where people these days think pain is cause. Whereas I believe pain is warning sign. Yes. Indigestion is warning sign. High blood pressure, warning sign. Like, these are all warning signs. So would you agree that pain is a warning sign that something is in dysfunction?
Absolutely. And there's acute pain, there's chronic pain, and there's something that I call chronic acute. And what I mean by that is, how somebody will say, oh man, in the middle of the night, my shoulder started hurting me. I don't know why it hurts. I didn't do anything. I didn't fall. I didn't injure myself. Why is my shoulder bothering me? And it doesn't go away and it gets worse. I consider that chronic acute because what that means is there was something going on in the body that is not allowing the shoulder to perform correctly during daily life. And over time, it hits that tipping point. And then the shoulder starts telling you, hey, something's wrong here. So it's definitely a warning sign. But what I have found to be the biggest impediment to people really resolving chronic pain is because they're seen as a body part. And when you go to any healthcare professional, no matter what profession they're in, if they only see you as a body part that walks through the door, they're going to be limited in how much they can help you. Because the shoulder, everybody wants to beat up the rotator cuff. And the rotator cuff is just 4 little tiny muscles. And the rotator cuff's job is to just keep the joint stable. It's not because the joint's unstable that it got injured. There's 14 other muscles that directly impact the function of the shoulder. And those muscles are designed for pushing and pulling and lifting and tugging, not the rotator cuff. So why are we strengthening the rotator cuff? And also every other body part impacts indirectly the function of the shoulder. So if the pelvis, which is the foundation, isn't performing properly, that'll trash the shoulder. If the trunk has any limitations in mobility, that will trash the shoulder. Quick story, I had a 22-year-old football quarterback come to me with a diagnosis of shoulder and elbow tendonitis. I assessed him. His shoulder had full range of motion. So did his elbow. He was strong enough. I could have hung on his arm for an hour. I mean, he was rock solid muscle from his nose to his toes. Nothing wrong with this kid whatsoever. And when I assessed him, I said, okay, show me how you throw a football. Because what happened was when he was in the 3-man, 3 practice throws or 3-hour practice, he would get shoulder pain and have to stop the practice, cut it short. And so I said, show me how you throw a football. He showed me and his ankle was unstable. And I said, okay, how long have you been practicing with unstable ankle? He said, oh, well, I tend to roll out on it and I have to walk off the pain during practice. And of course, inside I'm going, why is your coach and your trainer letting you play with an unstable ankle? But that's another topic. And so we worked on stabilizing his ankle. And because he was so young and strong and healthy, it was like 3 sessions. And he could 3-hour throws, no shoulder pain whatsoever. I never touched his shoulder because that wasn't the cause. It was the victim, which is why I wrote my book, Pain Culprits, because we miss the culprit and we're beating up the victim. Now, had he gone someplace else and they didn't understand the connection, they would have been ultrasound, hot pack, massage, range of motion. I mean, it would have been useless. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think you understand as well as other people are understanding as we go further on in history here is that the body can't be treated as this area. The body has to be treated as a whole organism in health and in pain management, movement. Like you said, ankle's the problem. Now the pain is up here. You see a lot of people with back pain, which hips are out of alignment. Hips are weak. They're not strengthening their hips. And so now we have back pain, right?
Yes. And also trunk. Because the back, this is an interesting piece of information people might like learning. So the lumbar spine between the trunk and the pelvis has really good strength at bending forward and backward. That's its job. I mean, it's really good at that. It does some side bending, not a lot. It has very little rotation. And I don't know if you remember, if you're old enough to remember, 20-something years ago, we were told never to twist when we exercise because you would hurt your back. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
So the reason that came out is because somebody got a hold of a Kabanji joint function book and they learned, oh, the lumbar spine doesn't rotate. That's why everybody's injuring themselves. So let's stop turning. Well, it's funny because we need to turn to get out of a car, to work in the kitchen, real life. And so the truth is, yes, the lumbar spine only rotates maybe 7 to 13 degrees, which isn't much. Its job is to translate that rotation from below in the hips to the trunk above, or from the trunk above down to the hips below. It's supposed to translate the rotation. Now think about it. If the trunk doesn't rotate, or if the hips don't rotate, where does that translation get stuck? In the low back. And so many people think, like, if you struggle to back up your car and you have neck pain or low back pain, I can almost guarantee you it's neither of those body parts. The culprit is the trunk. And as we get older, nobody trains their trunk, so it tends to stiffen. and you lose mobility.
Yeah. No, it's definitely true. I've seen in myself. I train a lot of core and a lot of trunk twisting, and I think people when people have pain, they tend to like stop doing things, right? Well, I'm not going to do anything for a week because I have a little bit of pain. And do you agree that that's the wrong process?
Absolutely. It's the worst thing you can do.
Me too. I agree too.
Yes.
Because I twisted my back, and I come from a history of like I'm not a person who has a lot of pain, but I have had times in my life when I've had a little bit of pain,
Hmm.
and especially elbow tendonitis. And we'll get to that because you spoke about something in the pre-interview that stuck my mind. I remember my elbow tendonitis, but when I twisted my back last week, I still went to the gym, still did all my mobility stuff, and I did my dead hangs where I twist. And later that day, my back felt like 90% better. Whereas most
Mm.
people would say, stay off it, don't go to the gym, don't do any
Yeah.
movement,
Yeah.
just, rest for the next week. But it
Hmm.
got better pretty quick. So you would agree that when when you have pain, you should be moving?
Yes. Now, the issue is you need to be doing the right movement the right way so
Sure.
that you're not causing more harm and you're not injuring yourself. You know, that whole no pain, no gain thing that
Yeah.
is completely taken out of context. And just for people listening, I'll explain the delayed onset muscle soreness happens when you work a muscle hard enough to break it down so that it will grow back stronger. And that soreness is because of those little micro tears in the muscle. And and to not get off on a tangent, but lots of complex carbs, lots of hydration, lots of water, and gentle movement will help that to alleviate much quicker. But that's not what happens when we're rehabbing or when we have chronic pain. We don't want to be eliciting pain because your brain thinks you're hurting yourself and it has to protect you from you. So your brain will kind of contort your body trying to find a way to do the repetition without pain. And now you're literally training in dysfunction. So it's important to do the right movements the right way, but motion is lotion. I
I
mean,
love
when
it.
you get that hydration, that fill effect, that fluid fill effect that just gets the muscles happy again. But you've got to be doing movement that isn't making the pain worse, or as I call it, punching the bear in the nose with every repetition. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I tore my quad tendon a couple years ago, and definitely, and it was my second quad tendon tear, separate leg. um, but this time I did a completely different protocol in in as far as rehabbing this leg than I did my left leg 6 years ago, 8 years ago, and completely different outcome
Yeah.
because movement, like you said, you need to get blood flow to that area besides the
Mhm.
good nutrition and all those things, but you need to get blood flow to the area to help it heal, right?
And that's awesome, Michael, because you were 6 or 7 years older. And
Yeah.
people would say that it takes longer to heal as you're older, but you proved the opposite. Because you did the right things the right way, you healed quicker.
Yeah, the first time I didn't do anything. I didn't do any mobility work. I didn't do any knee mobility work. I didn't do any ankle mobility work. I didn't do any hip mobility work. I stayed off it forever, and then I went back into leg presses and deep goblet squats and all those things. And my right leg, my most recent tear, is much much stronger than my left leg and feels better just from a physical feeling.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that's good.
When you had a couple of, I could call them kind of, you call them pillars, you have pillars, I have pillars. I like using this type of terminology with people because it gives people quick bullet points, right? So
Yes.
why don't you talk about the pillars? You call them, I think, pillars to well-being. You have
Yes.
7 pillars, I think, and you don't have to get too deep into each one, but kinda
Hmm.
just briefly go into the 7 because the first 3 are dynamite.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, the first one is mindset. So the
Yeah,
belief. And that, I could talk about that for hours ad
right.
nauseum. Because if we've been fed this narrative our whole life that we're supposed to decline as we get older, we're supposed to have joint pain, we're supposed to have stiffness, we're supposed to lose muscle mass, we're supposed to have incontinence, we're supposed to have all these things that happen to us, then our actions are going to follow what we believe. And it's the actions that actually cause those things to happen.
Right.
So I'll leave that at that.
Yeah.
And then, food. Oh, sorry, movement is the second one. And as we've already discussed, movement is life. When you stop moving, that's it. You're done. They're
Yeah.
going to throw dirt on you. You just got to keep moving as long as you're above ground. And if you don't know how, that's what I'm really good at teaching. I've taught people how to move a certain way. Doesn't matter how old they are. I mean, I've had people in their 80s get out of pain with movement. So it's phenomenal how miraculous the human body is designed to recover and restore and improve. As long as you're alive and breathing and you don't have some death-defying disease and you're on your deathbed, you can improve things. Absolutely. And then the third one is food. Food is key. We are what we eat. I've had people in their, again, 80s who eliminated joint pain by changing how they fed their body. And I always tell people food and drinks are either positive or negative. There's no neutral. So you're either nourishing your body or you're harming your body. Now, you don't have to be perfect because,
Right.
being perfect just really destroys life. I mean, it puts you into that run from the bear mode because you're under stress all the time, and that'll destroy your health. So, you want to stay in the rest and repair mode where you're happy, you're calm, and enjoy life. But I always tell people, there's this 10% thing. If you're doing everything right 90% of the time, you can get away with, some stuff.
Yeah.
And then where are we? 1, 2,
Fourth?
3. We're on number 4. That's
Yeah.
hydration.
Hydration. Yeah.
So many people do not hydrate themselves well. And I know there's a lot of conflict of opinions out there when it comes to water. People telling you, oh, you don't need to drink unless you're thirsty. Well, the problem is the thirst mechanism shuts down when you're not well hydrated. And so you don't get thirsty, but it will sometimes translate into a feeling hungry instead of thirsty. And you'll be eating instead of drinking when their body actually needs fluid. So it's fluid, muscles are 78% water. So if you're trying to build muscle, if you're older and you're worried about that age-related muscle loss, which it's not age-related, it's time-related, and activity-related, has nothing to do with age, but you've got to be drinking water. I mean, even if you're tired all the time, you're probably dehydrated. If you've got headaches, you might be dehydrated. If the joints need that fluid, the muscles need the water. And some people are concerned about incontinence. Oh, they don't want to have any unwanted leakage. Well, there's actually some data that shows if you increase your water intake, it can improve incontinence, not make it worse. And I treat people how to do movement fully clothed and upright to improve incontinence. But we really need that water. It's hugely, hugely important. And then the next one is, where am I? 5. You caught me off guard. I didn't have my little list in front of me. When I get talking about each one, I get sidetracked. So the next one I believe I've got is community. Is that what I've got? Community?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've noticed in my academy, I have an online academy, Have Lifeline Wellbeing. And when you are, and the data actually supports this, when you are in an environment where you're surrounded with people who have a similar mindset, similar life goals, you're kind of on the same page, it breeds success because you're not battling, you're not defending, you're supporting, you're encouraging, you're sharing your challenges. Other people have great ideas. Oh my gosh, some of the people in the academy have had the best solutions to issues that they find challenging that I would have never thought of. So you get this mind meld, so to speak, from a lot of different points of views and perspectives and cultures. And it's phenomenal. So community also, if you can't be a lone wolf, you're going to burn yourself out. You've got to have that support and that's in alignment with what your goals are. And, if you're around people who are complaining about and it's so funny because I'll have people tell me, since I learned all this stuff, everybody around me at work, all they're talking about is all this stuff that's wrong and all this stuff that's bad and all this stuff they're suffering. And unfortunately, when you learn stuff, you're more aware.
Oh yeah. Been down that road.
Yes. And then I believe the belief 6 is expert guidance.
Yeah.
Or I should say, sorry, pillar 6 is expert guidance. And that's with the internet. people, they go on and they search, and some people aren't aware of this, but AI is running the show a lot out there where people don't realize. I mean, I've had people send me videos, and when I look at the video, I know it's AI generated, and I look down below and it actually, because they have to say it legally, says it's AI generated, and it might be based on myths, or, I mean, it's crazy. We don't even know what's true anymore when we watch stuff. So it's really important to find somebody that is truly an expert in the area that you want to grow in or learn, and that they're trustworthy. And I tell people, this is the $1 million question to ask. When somebody advises you to do something or recommends something, how long have they been doing what they're doing? And how many people have they helped? Because there's a lot of best-selling books out there written by MDs who aren't practicing. So this is all theoretical, what they're writing in this book. They don't really know how this is going to impact the population. The people I've studied under have been getting people well, off meds, reversing disease, out of pain for 30, 40 years. Their track records are stellar. So that's what you want. Find somebody who has that kind of a background. And then pillar number 7 is doing it, consistency.
Yeah.
Because if you drink enough water today, but you don't for the next 6 days, or you move for 3 days and then you don't move for 3 months, or, you eat well for a week and then everything goes to pot. Yeah. Consistency. If you don't apply it, it's all just smoke.
Absolutely. When you talk about so much information on the internet where people just get so much wrong information, obviously it's hard for people to know like what's right, and well, my sister said this, and then my brother-in-law said this, and like you said, you have to go find people who have helped people and who have long histories of doing it. But I think if people need to get back to what makes sense, and I talk about this a lot.
Yes.
It doesn't make any sense to anybody that a person who's 75 is stuck sitting in a house and can't walk to the mailbox, can't walk stairs, can't go do the things they love. That doesn't make any sense to anybody if you really think about it. Like, would the creator or whatever you believe in design this machine? Do you think they designed it to just crap out at 65?
Yeah. And I often say this. A lot of people have this belief that once they hit this magic age, whatever age they think it is, 45, 60, whatever, that it's the pharmaceutical industry's job to hold us together until we go below ground.
Right.
I mean, it's nonsense. It's a lie from the pit of hell, actually,
Yeah.
because the human body is designed so miraculously. You can be in your 90s and increase bone density. You can be in your 90s and increase muscle. The cellular capability of the human body does not change with age. It's what we've done, how we've eaten, how we've moved. It's activity, lifestyle that changes things. But the cool part is it can always be improved.
You had a person on your show, on your YouTube channel. He's 81 and he plays basketball 3 times a week.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that was so inspiring. Playing 3 times a week at 81. And
Yeah.
then I look at other people in my life that I know who's 81 and they don't do anything. So,
Mhm.
like I said, we just got to get back to what really makes sense. I think we know in our minds what is true and what's not true, but it's hard when you're being inundated every day with like, this is what you got to do. This is what you got to do. I always tell people, you'll know if it's working for you or not. I have people that come to me, well, I have this pain. It's like, okay, well, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. Well, that's not going to work. My doctor told me that, this is what we got to do. And I said, okay, well, follow your doctor's orders. Come talk to me in 2 months. Let's see what happens. Well, still in pain, still on the same medication. That doesn't make sense, right?
I agree 100%. And, just to backtrack a little bit about that 80 some odd year old basketball player, it's a senior basketball league, and there are hundreds of men in this league that are over 60, and they're all playing. So I just wanted to because sometimes people think, oh, he's an outlier or he's
Right.
abnormal. No, there's
Well,
hundreds of them playing several times a week. And I video recorded, I got their permission. I recorded them, and they're moving. They're not just, oh, let me get over to the other net.
oh,
No,
he
they're
said this
running,
is
they're
not just
hauling. You're hearing those sneakers
right.
squeak on that basketball floor, just like when you're at a professional game. Now they're
Yeah.
not 7 feet tall and dunking without jumping, but they're
Yeah, he said this isn't, we're just, shooting around the hoop a little bit. He's like, this is full court basketball.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was,
And I
and a
see.
lot of them were in my graduating high school class. So
Oh,
that was
really?
cool. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I love that. It's when you talk about hydration, yeah, love all that. I think that people, they don't see the value in fruits and vegetables because there's so much hydration in fruits and vegetables. Because a lot of people don't like to drink water, and that's why we have all that, crappy additives that we can put in our water to make water taste good, because people just don't like drinking water anymore. But I try to get people, like, just eat more fruit and eat more vegetables. You're getting so much water in that you're automatically going to intake more water just by eating more fruits and vegetables.
Yes. Yes. And cooked food obviously doesn't really have any liquid in it unless you're eating soup.
Right.
But they used to call me the sergeant at the nursing home when I was working there because
I love that.
but I didn't hurt anybody.
No.
They loved me because I got them better. And if somebody needed 2 people to assist them to the toilet, they would wait forever because they're usually short-staffed, and they didn't have 2 staff members to come and help them. So obviously they would end up not in a good situation and need to be cleaned up. Nobody wants that. So I could work with them and get them where they got strong enough where they only needed 1 person assist. Or they might even be independent toileting, which was a whole game changer in that environment. So, but so they called me the sergeant because, like I said, I'd have people 100 years old doing squats and parallel bars, but I never caused anybody injury, and they loved me. Now, here's the thing. The number one thing about making sure that you can move properly is making sure you're doing it right. And this whole hydration thing, older people especially, if they've got to wait when they call the bell to get help, or they're an older person and they find it's I have to go to the bathroom all the time, I don't want to drink the water. I tell them that's how it works. Water in, water out. It's exactly how it works because it flushes the cells. Now, here's the thing, and I'm kind of, I don't want to say mean, but I'm blunt. And I tell people, grow up and drink the water. I don't care if you don't like how water tastes, drink it. I mean, if you had a 3-year-old who didn't want to hold your hand when you crossed the street, you'd make them hold your hand. Exactly. If I'm working with somebody and I know they're dehydrated, I'm going to make them drink water. I mean, I'm not going to hold them down and pour it down their throat, but I'm going to tell them, do whatever you need to do to get that water in you, because it's important.
If you go to
say, I don't like vegetables, and I don't mean to sound mean, but it's, come on, put your big girl pants on, put your big boy pants on, and do what your life needs.
At some point, you have to take personal responsibility for your situation. Yes. And that's, we're in an era now where people just don't want to take any personal responsibility for the situation that they've put themselves in. But they have to understand that just as much as you put yourself in a position, you can turn it right back around. The body, like you said earlier, the body is such an incredible organism. It has its own healing built inside of it, and it can start healing, like you said, at 80 years of age. After years of abuse, you can still heal it.
Yes. Yeah, I know women, a pianist who sat most of her life and started running at 72 and is running marathons. I mean, you're never too old, ever, to improve your life.
Absolutely. You have a couple other topics that I really found informative. This thing that you talked about, belief, and I love this, belief versus biology.
Yes.
Speak a little bit to that.
Yes. So our biology, our cells are designed to respond to the right things the right way. So when you're training your muscles correctly and you want them to grow, hypertrophy, they will. when it doesn't matter how old you are. It has nothing to do with age. But if you believe, there's a lot of narrative out there that says, oh, you can't grow muscle after 60, or, oh, you've got to increase your protein intake because you don't absorb it right when you're a certain age. And what a load of hooey that is. Oh my gosh, that just makes me want to gag myself with a spoon. It's not true. So, if you believe, you're going to behave the way you believe. It doesn't change your biology. Your biology is the same. There's something called angiogenesis. It's the birth of new blood vessels. And your body will grow blood vessels towards muscles that need more blood supply when you're trying to increase them, when you have a wound that needs to heal, unless you've got a disease that prevents that. I mean, there's so many ways the human body is absolutely phenomenal. And not to get off track, because I'm not an ophthalmologist, but in my academy, she's a Russian trained ophthalmologist, and she teaches natural vision improvement. Oh, I think you should have her on your show.
Oh, I would love that.
Oh my goodness. The number one reason people need eyeglasses and they have, cataracts and all these other issues that goes on is because the eyes are under stress. The muscles are stressed. And when you learn how to relax those muscles and do these very special strategies, you can end up not needing glasses. I mean, when I took her class, it was phenomenal. There was one person in the class who had passed her DMV exam without glasses, so that and it doesn't matter how old you are. So that's the cellular beauty of the human body.
Absolutely. It's you get excited about it when you really know, you know what I'm saying? Like, I could tell your excitement, and I've had interviews where I get pumped up about it because it's so cool. When I wear glasses, and this didn't happen till I was about 52-ish, but came on all of a sudden. And what's funny though is last year I went for my yearly exam, and the eye doctor said, we don't really need to change any of your prescription.
So it didn't progress, which is
it did not progress. This is the first time since I started wearing glasses that it did not progress.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, whatever you're doing, just keep doing it. And I said, the only thing that really changed was I started, and I know people laugh at me when I say this, but I started eating a lot of carrots. And people laugh when I say it, but it was really the only thing that really changed in my diet over that period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked at me, he said, believe it or not, there's a lot of truth to that.
There is. There's a lot of data that shows that certain plants will help to feed the eyes. Kale actually has the highest number of nutrients for eye health.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. My smoothie this morning, I had kale only because they were out of arugula. So I think I'm going to throw more kale in there.
Yeah. Kale also improves your circulation because
I've known that.
And if you combine the dark leafy greens with balsamic vinegar, that increases your nitric oxide production, which opens up your blood vessels and helps the.
I have a sensitivity to vinegar, so I have to stay away from it.
Oh, okay.
I get joint pain.
Okay.
So you talked about that. Joint pain can be food related, could be movement related, could be hydration related, could be chemical related, could be supplement related. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely.
Could be pharmaceutical related, medication related. There's so many different things where joint pain comes from.
Yes. I have a whole chapter in my book on pain culprits about the side effects of the medications that literally cause pain.
Really? Okay. So the book is called Aging Culprits and Pain Culprits?
Well, I have 2 books, Pain Culprits.
2 separate books.
And Aging Culprits.
Okay. Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. So where do you think people, because people always know, well, what should I do today? What do I got to do today? So give people what should I do today that I can do differently today to start?
So, yeah. And this is I love to give people practical tips because we can talk about stuff all day long, but if they don't know what to do, then we haven't helped anybody. And so what I recommend, if somebody's very sedentary, which tends to happen nowadays, we're sitting a lot, we're at the computer, or we're in a car, or, we're just not getting up and moving much. And if your body hurts when you get up and move, you're less likely to do it. So what I tell people, there's this very gentle, I call it a hip matrix, because the human body moves in 3 planes of motion. And a lot of the times people are only moving in 1. And so a really good thing to do if you're sedentary is to just stand up consistently. And I'll tell people, just set your cell phone to go off every 30 minutes. Stand up and do what I call kind of like a little bit of a back bend, because that's going to open up the front of the hips, because they'll lock short and they'll pull on the lumbar spine, and you'll get back pain thinking it's your back, but it's because your hips have locked short because of all the sitting. And so just a very gentle forward. And if going forward with the hips causes pain, then kind of, when a drawer gets stuck and you keep trying to pull it out, but you push it all the way back in to get it on track, and then it comes out. So if your body doesn't like going forward with your hips, then just go backward a little bit more and then come forward as much as you can comfortably without punching the bear in the nose. And just that's going to create that fluid fill effect, that pumping action, and it's going to really help to loosen up the body. And you want to do a little sideways as well, kind of like if you had parallel bars and you were tapping them with your hips, shifting that weight. All of these motions, by the way, mobilize the ankles too. It's from the ground up. It's a beautiful thing. And then rotating. Just get all those motions in there. You can do them in sitting, but standing is going to be more beneficial for you. That's great. Again, if you don't like drinking water, I tell people just every half hour, drink a 2-ounce shot glass of water. Now, who can't do 2 ounces of water?
Right.
Even if you don't like water, you do that every half hour. If you're awake for 16 hours, you've drank your quota.
Yeah.
It's really easy to do. And then, of course, get those fruits and veggies in there. Don't think about eliminating stuff, because we all have this fear of going without and, I'm going to eat all the bad stuff now because I'm never going to eat any more bad stuff after tomorrow, that kind of thing. That's a loss. Just add the good stuff. Don't think about taking stuff away. And, just eat a couple pieces of fruit every day. Add a green salad. If you don't like a salad, eat some beans and rice, eat some potatoes, eat some real food, because the body thrives on real food.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure you and I could speak for another hour on the food topic alone.
Another day.
Yeah, exactly. We've done that ad nauseum on this podcast. But one more thing I want you to touch on is this really another thing that piqued my interest was the doing the wrong movements. We're so focused, especially men, and I've had my share of this issue too, is going to the gym and lifting weights and doing all the common movements that everyone tells you to make.
Yes.
And then you wonder why you have pain. Like
Yes.
I was having shoulder pain for so long, and it came to be that the bench press is just not a functional movement in its design with a bar with your arms back.
Right.
And so I got rid of that movement and I just went to a natural push-up. And within about 2 to 3 weeks, shoulder pain was gone.
Yeah.
So speak to how people are damaging themselves and causing their own problems because doing the wrong type of movements that aren't natural to us.
So everybody joins the gym around this time of year, and a lot of them injure themselves, and so they stop going. And even well-meaning but misinformed athletic trainers will be teaching these things. So what happens is there's authentic human movement and there's inauthentic human movement. And I'll give you an idea. So say somebody wants to build their hamstring, right, the back of the thigh. And so they get in that machine and they put their ankle against the bar and they bend their knee and they
I know what machine you're talking about.
They push against resistance to strengthen their hamstring. Now, yes, their hamstrings will grow. They'll get bigger. They'll get stronger. But the hamstring's down there scratching its head going, what are you doing? This isn't really what I do in real life. Why are we doing this? And I have asked a bazillion people at all my online events. I'll have up to 800 people in an online event. Nobody's ever had an answer. When do we ever do that movement against resistance in real life or sports for any reason? Nobody has an answer. So why are we training like that? So, and it's the same thing when you sit and you put the weight in front of your ankles and you straighten your knee against resistance. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's completely inauthentic. It's not what the human body was designed to do. It will do it. And as I tell people, it's because we're training like dead people. because we study the anatomy on cadavers. And this is where the muscle attaches. This is where the muscle attaches. And if it shortens, this is the movement. So that must be how we train that muscle. So people are training like dead people. And it's not human movement. So, even biceps. And here's a simple little example. You want to keep that elbow in at 90 degrees. You want to make sure you don't use any other body part. You got to make sure and maybe get a little supination at the end. Let's really isolate that bicep. Let's get that puppy to pop. Well, if we go to lift something in real life, if you go to pick up a heavy bag of groceries off the dining room table, or you go to pick up a grandkid, you're squatting, you're using your whole body, you're pushing through your feet using your power source, which is max, gluteus maximus, I call him max, and you're using your whole body to pick that up. You're not going, oh, I better only use my biceps. I better only do this, keep my elbows in when I pick up that bag of groceries. The human body is designed for everything to work together as a team. It's a physics thing. You got ground reaction force. For every action, an equal and opposite reaction occurs. Even if you're doing a straight leg raise, if you go to lift one leg and you have trouble, it might be because the other leg struggles to push down with the same force, especially if you have pain. So it's not always the side that has pain that's the problem. But that's what happens in the gyms. We get in these machines that don't really fit our bodies well. They're not lined up properly. They're isolating muscles. We're repetitively doing things that are not an authentic movement. Everybody thinks the hamstring's job is to bend the knee. Actually, its job when we walk is to create terminal extension of the knee, which means it helps to straighten the knee as you swing your leg forward. Completely opposite of how we train the hamstrings. So, yeah.
Well, I learned that in my rehab of my quad tendon tear, because my gait, which the way you walk and the positions that you walk in, was not correct. And I went to a physical therapist for this. And I was compensating, like you talked about earlier, is that when the other muscles are going to compensate when another muscle is not working properly. So you have to fight that off. You have to make sure that that's not going to, you don't want to do that for a long period of time, because now you're just going to train the other muscle in a poor way. Correct?
Oh yeah. And then other things are going to break down because it's not their job.
Right. It's not their job.
Step in for a while, but after a while they're like,
Yeah. So I learned that my hamstring had a very specific purpose to the walk with the knee. And so I learned that right away. So yeah, that all makes sense. I think functional movement is just all my little aches and pains, little tendonitis in the elbow, the shoulder thing, knee pain that I used to have, that all went away when I went back to functional movements, pull-ups, squats, core work, mobility work, all those things. All those things really went away when I got out of my gym bro mentality of, all these different movements that were like you said, you don't do that in life.
And you're just as strong. You haven't gotten weaker.
No, not at all. Not
exactly.
At all. In fact, I was weaker when I had pain because I couldn't lift as much because it didn't have the strength.
Yeah. And you couldn't function because you had pain.
Exactly. Excellent. And that's the last thing I wanted to touch on, was that it also goes with your philosophy, core work versus ab work. I see everyone in the gym doing all these ab exercises that are terrible for their lower back. Yes. And I just want to speak to them, but you can't do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody wants the 6-pack ab.
Yeah.
And the funny part is the abdominals actually love rotation, and they switch on much better when you're upright, because the abdominals' job is to keep you from falling backward and cracking your head open when you're upright. So older people, when they weaken, they do this because they're going to fall backward. So you can get them nice and upright if you strengthen the front of the body, which is not just the abdominals, but the core is actually from the nose to the toes. I mean, it's the low back muscles, it's the glutes. I mean, the core is everything. Abdominals are, and if you're, the best way, and we'll end with this because I could talk forever on this topic, but the best way to work a muscle is to eccentrically load it, which means to get it longer under tension as it controls the movement. And so when you're laying on the floor and you're doing a crunch, you're not lengthening the muscle. You're starting at neutral and you're shortening it against gravity. So, will it get stronger? Technically, yes. Will you have better stability and better core? Not necessarily. But if you're upright and you're bending backward, lengthening and loading those muscles, and you can have weights and you can really load those puppies, you're going to be, and you add a little rotation, wow, your core is going to just explode with power and function.
And that helps with preventing injury and preventing falls, your stability. You know, you slip a little bit on the ice, but your body has the core strength to be able to catch yourself and not have you fall to the ground.
Oh yeah, I've had many of the people in my academy tell me, because they love to hike, that because of the training in the academy, they have not fallen when they've slipped during a hike.
Absolutely. Do
Yeah.
you think that people should, like, I try to gear my training, and I do this with diet as well, and with people that I coach and stuff. I sit for long periods of time with my day job. So because I do that, my diet is adjusted for that, because I'm not burning as much calories as the next person who has a construction job or a job in a warehouse. And also I sit a lot. So my training on a weekly basis is based around, because I sit a lot. So I'm going to do more movements and mobility work for the hips and for the knees and for, the lower back. Do you believe in that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you sit on a muscle,
Yeah.
it loses fluid, it loses size, it loses strength. So if you're sitting on max and the hamstrings, you're going to have issues. I kind of lovingly call it pancake butt. You really need some definition in that area of the body so that you can push open a heavy door, because it's not arm strength, it's that pushing against the floor.
Oh yeah.
So getting out of a car without help. I tell people, if you are sitting and you plop that last couple of inches into the chair, don't wait. Start training now, because nobody ever set a goal to go to a nursing home. It happens by default. It happens by ignoring those little things that we work around or we make excuses for.
That's a great way to encapsulate the whole interview right there.
Yeah.
Nobody plans on it. It's what we don't do that gets us there.
And I've been in those settings. I've worked in acute hospital care. I've worked in orthopedic outpatient. I've worked in nursing home setting, home care setting, and nobody ever wanted to be there, and they never set a goal to go, but it happened.
Yeah.
So
Excellent. Well, why don't you just give people some places to find you? I know you have the two books, Aging Culprits and Pain Culprits. Yeah, just wrap people up with the place where they can find you if they would like to get more help.
Sure. So, I mean, I've got a lot of different online programs, but the best way, I think, and the easiest way is to go to my main website, which is kind of a long handle. It's havelifelongwellbeing.com. And when they go there, there's a simple little quiz. It's like 5 questions they can answer, and it will aim them at what resources will best meet what they're concerned about the most.
Excellent. All right. Eileen Kopsaftis, thank you so much for all your information. We appreciate your time, and thank you so much for helping people out there, all the good work you're doing out there. I love it.
Yes, thank you, Michael. We're of the same mind. I admire what you're doing as well.
Thank you so much.